All right, this is a project that I have had going on for literally years, and it started going good, and then I ran out of hair, and while I was waiting to order, they ran out of that color, and it took the lady forever to get it back in. In fact, she never really did, and that's why you see right here this color is slightly different from that one. And so as I started back, finally I got the new hair in, and I started on that, and I started running into trouble because this is really fine in there. So the pieces are really close together. What I would do is I would thread a little chunk of hair through a needle, poke the needle through it, comes to the other end, tie a knot in it, and then pull it back through the top. Well, as I started getting more and more hair, as I would put the needle through, it would get caught on the knots, like this, when I was doing this section, it would get caught on the knots created by this. And it just, the more I did, it became harder and harder to get it done. So I kind of bailed on that, and then so my next step is to get some hair extensions, and I took the clips off of these, and what I'm eventually going to do is I'm going to go ahead and glue these all around here. Again, I've seen videos on it. It doesn't seem too hard. The only part that really scared me is that the lady I watched, she did it, and it kind of went a circular round. One challenge is always making the top part of it like the closure, but then this isn't a special challenge because you see here, not only does it finish up in a circular pattern, but then I have this center part in her hair. And so I've really been putting it off for a long time, trying to figure out how exactly I was going to do it. And so today I'm going to attempt to tackle it, and this will either get successful or I'll finally be done. So I did get two of the smallest hair extensions, and I went ahead, and you can see right here I sewed like 2 strips in there, so I kind of put them reverse back to back, and then I'm attempting to like open up a seam so that it'll lay flat when this goes on her head like that. It'll be flat, and then the hair will fall to either side. So I'm going to get ready to glue that, right, and it fits. Luckily I'm pretty close. The section that I have here is a little bit longer than, and I think I'm going to put the hair extension up in there, and it will fit just about perfect. So I'm going to try to glue that right now, and we'll see if I'm successful. She is back. She's got a whole lot more hair on her head than she did the last time we saw her. So she is almost done. I'm coming down to the end though, and again, really finishing up the last little sections is where it's going to start to get tricky here. I will be able to do this one last maybe U here, and then, you know, she's going to have basically similar to this, but it'll be a little bit open, and you know, she doesn't have a hole. Right here, as you can see, this is the center seam that I did in the previous one, and I was pleased with how that turned out, but I think it worked because it was a pretty big piece. To try to close these little holes right here, I tried sewing 2 little pieces back to back, and I couldn't get it to work. They were just too small and too difficult to work with. So I moved on to a second sort of solution here. Is I took my thing and I bent it in a U shaped here, and then I stitched it back and forth to close it, and then I threaded some actual hair, and I went ahead and stitched it, kind of a loop stitch, to cover up the stitching of the weft, and that worked pretty good. And then before I went ahead and did the second thing, I got the idea that, well, instead of using one string and looping it all around, what if I do just similar to the way that when I originally had the dog. I was thinking that what I could do that same thing with, instead of being the head, that this would be the head. So I'll bring it up through here, and then each one of these pieces will just lay over it. This is the method that I used for it. I love this stuff. This is really good craft glue. It dries super quick and is really easy to work with. So I would take a little bit of hair, depending on the size of the, well, when I was stitching in there, depending on the size of the hole. But I'll probably use this, cut it off, and then you got to be able to thread these hairs through a needle. And I would use something with a large hole like this. This one happens to be curved. The ones I used on the original project project were not curved, but this is just one of the ones that I had left, and it'll do just fine. So you clip these off, you put a little bit of tacky glue on it, and then do like that with your fingers so that it's flat, and that you can then thread the clump of hair through here, and then you can just sew. And that's how I did it. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing here with this guy, and we'll take a look at the end product and see if it works or not. Alright, just to see you, show you the kind of interim part, I do think that it has turned out good so far. I went ahead and just to give you an idea of what all this looks like if, like on the inside head of the doll where I did sew it. So if you could even imagine all these little tasseled ends, instead of being straight, tied into knots, that is what is on the inside of the doll. I did go ahead and I stitched this just to kind of hold these things together, and I am also going to glue it, and then I'm going to go ahead and press it open just a little bit so that the hair lays in a nice part. And I think that bit that I hand sewed will is going to cover it up nicely.